Bella Baxter plays the piano with her hands and feet, enjoying the sound of the keys. Although she is an adult, she behaves like a small child. She moves clumsily and can barely utter a few words. Bella is pure curiosity, fascinated by every new object, sound, or flavor she discovers. Her world is in black and white, reflecting her simple view of reality. Dr. Godwin Baxter, an eccentric scientist with a disfigured face, watches her with joy and amazement. He treats Bella not just as a daughter, but as his masterpiece. They live together in an old Victorian mansion, surrounded by extraordinary animals created by the doctor. Such a creature is his half goat and half duck. Another is a half duck and half dog. While they eat, Dr. Goodwin lets out a loud burp, and a large bubble escapes from his mouth. Bella claps, impressed. He kisses her on the forehead and leaves for work. Godwin is a professor of medicine and is often mocked for his appearance and unconventional methods. During his lectures, only one student, Max McCandless, seems to respect him. Godwin invites Max to his home and introduces him to Bella, who immediately captivates Max. Godwin offers Max the role of research assistant in charge of recording all of Bella's behavior, as he needs a detailed log of his great experiment. He explains to Max that Bella suffered a brain injury. Her body and mind are not fully aligned, but she's progressing rapidly. Although Godwin insists Bella is merely his experiment, he treats her with respect and fatherly affection. One night, while reading her bedtime stories, Bella, nestled against his chest, asks whether he is her father, because the maid told her he was not. Goodwin replies that her real parents, who were his friends, died on an expedition and left her in his care. Bella understands the concept of death. She becomes saddened by her loss and tells Godwin that she loves him. On another day, Max tells Bella about other cities, which increases her desire to explore the outside world. Bella asks Goodwin to take her outside. At first, he refuses, but when Bella begins to throw a tantrum and hurl objects to the floor, he finally gives in. They board a gas-powered carriage and head to the park. Bella is overjoyed. Godwin shares stories from his childhood, revealing that his own father was also an eccentric scientist who used him as a subject in his experiments. His own son, in the name of science. His father drove nails into his thumbs to encourage bone growth, burned his genitals with hot irons, and removed certain stomach glands. That is why he now burps enormous bubbles. Despite his father's cruelty, Goodwin claims to hold no resentment. He says he understands his father's reasons, believing the experiments were important for science. For him, emotions are irrelevant. However, one might ask, does he truly feel this way? Or is it simply a defense mechanism against his father's coldness? Although Bella is also an experiment of Godwin's, he treats her with far more kindness than he ever received from his own father. When Godwin sees people approaching, afraid of being rejected, he decides to end the outing immediately. Back on the carriage, Bella wants ice cream, but the doctor, concerned about potential insults they might receive, refuses. She struggles to get out, but he doesn't allow it. He ultimately calms her with a sedative. Back home, Max cannot resist his curiosity and seeks to learn more about Bella's origin. When Godwin catches him reading some notebooks, he tells him the truth. Bella was not always his creation. She was once a high society woman, pregnant and deeply unhappy. Godwin knows little about her, only that she was so miserable with her life that she attempted to end it by jumping off a bridge. The doctor found her body nearly dead, but still alive because she was pregnant. That's when he had the idea of transplanting the baby's brain into the mother's body, thus giving life to Bella. The film is based on the 1992 novel of the same name by Alasdair Gray. This novel comically and satirically reinvents the famous Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. In Frankenstein, the scientist Victor Frankenstein creates a giant monster from body parts, reanimating it with electricity. In Poor Things, we see echoes of this gothic narrative in characters like Godwin Baxter, marked and reconstructed after his father's experiments, and Bella, reanimated by Godwin with an infant brain in an adult body. Godwin would be Frankenstein's monster, while Bella becomes a kind of daughter of Frankenstein, making Poor Things a literary descendant of Shelley's novel. Poor Things also includes several allusions to the life of Mary Shelley. For instance, the name Godwin refers to William Godwin, Mary's father, a philosopher and writer who greatly influenced her intellectual upbringing. Bella's birth following her mother's death echoes the life of Mary Wollstonecraft, Mary Shelley's mother, who died shortly after giving birth to her. The surname Baxter refers to the Baxter family, with whom Shelley lived in Scotland. There, she found inspiration to write Frankenstein and met Isabel Baxter, one of her closest friends. On the other hand, Mary's mother, Mary Wollstonecraft, was a renowned feminist writer and the author of A Vindication of the Rights of Women, a key text in feminist literature. Mary Shelley grew up immersed in her mother's works, developing a strong passion for travel, writing, and learning. Her father described her at age 15 as brave, impulsive, open-minded, with an insatiable thirst for knowledge and unshakable perseverance. He expressed his desire to see her grow up to become either a philosopher or a skeptic. With this in mind, we can see that Bella's story in Poor Things seems to mirror Mary's own life journey. Just a quick pause to say that if you're enjoying this video and haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. It would mean a lot and really helps me keep making more videos and content like this. Alright, let's get back to the story. One morning, Bella experiences pleasure for the first time, and from then on, she satisfies her desires on her own, whenever they arise, whether in the dining room or in front of the maid. When Max finds her in such a situation, he scolds her, saying that such things are not done in a civilized society. But Bella finds this idea absurd and does not understand what he means. The concept of an infant's brain in an adult body serves to portray a woman free from social norms and expectations, reacting authentically and genuinely to her surroundings. Thus, we see a woman who feels no shame or humiliation and resists most external pressures. This leads to absurd and ironic situations in her interactions, which the film uses to highlight the contradictions and ironies of the real world. Feeling trapped and controlled, Bella begins to rebel. She refuses to eat dinner and throws her plate on the floor. Godwin believes that marriage might calm Bella and make her less interested in going out. Noticing Max's increasing fascination with her, he suggests that Bella is in love with him and proposes that Max marry her on the condition that they always remain at home. Bella, not truly understanding what marriage entails, agrees. Before the wedding, Godwin hires a lawyer named Duncan Wedderburn to draft the legal agreement that will effectively imprison Bella. Duncan, known for being a seducer, is curious to meet the woman behind the contract. When he meets Bella, he's impressed. He touches her inappropriately and then leaves. Later, he climbs up to her window at night and finds her pleasuring herself. Bella is not embarrassed to be seen, but apologizes because she's heard it's not proper behavior. Duncan assures her that he does not care about social rules and tells her that he has come to free her. He says he perceives in her a deep desire to experience and explore the unknown and invites her to travel with him to Lisbon. Up to this point, we've seen how Bella's growing awareness of the outside world has ignited her desire to explore and live in it. However, she's confronted by Godwin's strict control. When she finally got permission to go out, the doctor ended the outing abruptly and even refused to buy her an ice cream. This rigid control only intensified her yearning for freedom. Furthermore, Godwin arranged her marriage to Max under the condition that she remained confined at home, deepening her sense of entrapment. At this critical moment, Duncan appeared and began his manipulation. Let us analyze how, having drafted the contract himself, Duncan is well aware of Bella's feelings of confinement. He presented himself as the solution she'd been seeking, describing himself as someone who rejects restrictive social rules and promising to liberate her. He captured and voiced Bella's desire for adventure and freedom. And at that exact moment, he proposed they escape together to Lisbon. This is a classic form of manipulation, empathizing and saying exactly what the other person longs to hear to achieve one's own goals. Does that remind you of anyone? Although Bella is suspicious of his intentions, she accepts the offer, since Duncan seems to be her only chance to explore the world. Bella tells Godwin that he controls her too much and that she's going on an adventure with Duncan before returning to marry Max. Godwin says he cannot let her go, but Bella replies that if he doesn't, she will be filled with hatred. Max arrives, angry with Bella, and tries to stop her, saying he will confront Duncan. Bella cries, but instead of opposing her, Godwin decides to grant her freedom. With a kiss on the forehead, he bids her farewell and wishes her luck. Why did Godwin ultimately agree to let her go? At first, he resisted, but he changed his mind when she threatened to hate him if he didn't. This is telling, as Godwin, who sees himself as a man of science and dismisses emotions, only gave in at the prospect of being hated. Throughout the film, he repeatedly claims that his father's actions and cruel experiments were justified in the name of science and progress. However, this constant repetition seems more like an effort to convince himself, using science as a shield against the traumas caused by his father. If emotions truly meant nothing to him, why would Bella's threat of hatred affect him so deeply? The truth is that, deep down, Godwin resents his father for the harm he inflicted and fears that Bella will see him in the same way. This projection makes him vulnerable to Bella's words, and in the end, he allows her to leave to avoid becoming what he secretly despises most, another version of his own father. In Lisbon, Bella's world transitions from black and white to one filled with vibrant colors and fantastical settings, reflecting her new outlook on the world as an exciting place full of possibilities. Bella discovers intimacy with Duncan, and the two frequently engage in what she calls furious jumps. She's fascinated and believes that everyone should be doing this all the time. This film sparked much controversy among audiences and in the media due to its numerous intimate scenes, which can feel uncomfortable, especially because Bella begins with the cognitive development of a baby. It is understandable understandable that seeing this character in intimate situations, even with an adult body, might cause discomfort. At first, this portrayal also made me uneasy, but upon deeper analysis, I saw another perspective. I believe many of us interpret Bella's cognitive age too literally. However, this film does not follow a clear timeline. Bella's development is measured more by her growing understanding of the world and of herself than by the passage of time. Her evolution is not linear. While she struggles in some areas, such as walking awkwardly, these are balanced by her abilities in others, like understanding complex concepts, such as death. It's also important to understand that the film is told from Bella's perspective and should not be interpreted in a literal or linear fashion. The cinematography emphasizes this with the initial black and white shots that gradually become colored as Bella expands her exploration and understanding of the world. What do you think about this aspect of the film? Do you believe there are perverse intentions behind it, or has it simply been misinterpreted? Even so, I believe that much of the criticism the film received could have been avoided had the director kept the original ending from the book, which I'll tell you at the end. Bella decides to explore on her own and discovers delicious food, captivating music, and even encounters with violence. However, upon returning to the hotel, she finds Duncan upset because she went out without telling him. He reminds her that venturing out alone can be extremely dangerous. At first, Duncan presented himself as someone who rejected social norms and embraced Bella's desire to explore new experiences. But now it becomes clear that this was merely a facade. In reality, he intends to control Bella and derive pleasure from her. Thus, sexuality in the film can also be seen as an experience many people go through. Sexuality emerges quickly in the story, just as individuals begin to explore it early in life, and sadly are sometimes taken advantage of by people like Duncan. Bella and Duncan have dinner with another couple, Kitty and Gerald. Kitty mentions how much she enjoyed Oscar Wilde's new play, especially the line about the handbag. This is an allusion to Wilde's play The Importance of Being Earnest. Next, Bella tries a dish she dislikes, and without thinking, spits it out. Everyone looks at her disapprovingly. Duncan questions Bella, and she asks why she must keep something disgusting in her mouth. Then, a baby begins to cry incessantly, and Bella, irritated, stands up, saying she ought to hit the baby. Duncan stops her before she acts. He takes her inside and tells her that her behavior is unacceptable. She replies that the food upset her, the baby annoyed her, and Kitty's conversation bored her. Duncan instructs her that upon returning to the table, she should simply say, "How wonderful." When she returns, Bella defies Duncan by repeating the phrase at inappropriate moments, such as when Kitty mentioned that her father's death has worsened. Bella replies, "How wonderful." The reference to Wilde's play is no coincidence. It's deeply symbolic. It highlights a striking irony. The Importance of Being Earnest critiques the social norms of its time, where censorship and politically correct behavior were commonplace. It's ironic that, while Kitty claims to admire this work, she and everyone else at the table disapprove of Bella for her honesty and transparency. The film exaggerates Bella's behavior, clearly, but it serves to show how society often encourages authenticity, only to later criticize those who genuinely attempt it. A woman approaches and greets Bella by calling her a Victoria Blessington. Bella doesn't understand what she means, but Duncan hears it. It becomes increasingly difficult for Duncan to control Bella as she explores her identity and preferences. Growing more jealous and impatient, Duncan now faces a new challenge. In the following scene, while Duncan confesses to having become a possessive lover, Bella is distracted by the music in the venue and suddenly stands up, overtaken by an uncontrollable impulse to dance on the floor with disoriented and abrupt movements. Duncan tries to join her on the dance floor to save face. After the dance, Duncan notices a man winking at Bella and, consumed by jealousy, starts a fistfight with him. After the altercation, Bella casually remarks that she's had intimate relations with other men, which causes Duncan to break down in tears. In London, Max and Godwin decide to replicate the Bella experiment using another body, under the pretense of scientific curiosity, although in reality, they miss Bella. Meanwhile, Duncan pretends to regret not having supported her enough and, as an apology, promises her a surprise. However, when Bella becomes distracted, he locks her in a trunk and takes her onto a cruise ship where she cannot go anywhere. Duncan insists he did it out of love and tries to convince her to feel the same, but Bella has changed. She's matured and is beginning to realize the things she dislikes, such as the limitations Duncan imposes on her. We have seen that Bella has grown through exploring different aspects of the human experience, and aboard the ship, she will now progress through philosophy. From this point onward, she will engage with the great ideas of her time, ideas that shaped the modern Western world. With each concept she internalizes, she'll take another step in her personal growth. On the ship, Bella meets two passengers, Martha, an elegant older woman, and her companion, Harry, a witty and cynical young man. Bella befriends them, and both appreciate her sincerity, which they find refreshing. At that moment, Duncan appears and scolds her for not behaving in according to the standards of polite society. But Harry remarks that such a society will destroy her. Duncan tries to take Bella away, but she proposes that they all have dinner together that evening. Though reluctantly, Duncan agrees. In private, Duncan, frustrated by his inability to control Bella, decides to propose marriage. However, Bella clarifies that she's engaged to Max and only ran away with him temporarily for fun. Duncan, angry and on the verge of tears, decides to go to the casino. Meanwhile, Godwin and Max have begun their new experiment. They have brought Felicity to life, a girl subjected to a similar procedure as Bella, but otherwise entirely different. Felicity does not appear to be as curious or as charming as Bella. Inspired by Martha, Bella has started reading Ralph Waldo Emerson, a prominent philosopher of that era. Emerson was a key figure of 19th century transcendentalism. He believed that people were inherently good but corrupted by society. He advocated for the individual's unlimited potential, encouraging people to seek answers within themselves, in nature, and through art. Martha seems to share this view. As debate begins, Harry takes a stance completely opposed to Emerson's, telling Bella that philosophy and the effort to improve people are a waste of time. Martha intervenes, supporting Emerson's belief that it is possible to improve both as individuals and society. Bella agrees and believes that everyone's goal should be to improve, progress, and grow, and she sees herself as an example of that. However, Harry argues that any improvement through philosophy is merely an attempt to escape the reality that we are naturally cruel. We are born that way, and we die that way. Harry represents nihilism, a philosophy that denies any absolute truth, meaning, or value in the world. It rejects objective moral values and considers belief in religion, politics, and morality to be unfounded. He distrusts philosophy and any system that seeks to improve the world, convinced that human beings are irredeemably cruel. At that moment, Duncan appears visibly upset because Bella no longer pays him much attention. He critiques her for reading too much and claims she has lost her charming way of speaking. Bella responds by quoting Emerson, "I'm a changing feast, like all of us," in contrast to what Harry believes. Frustrated, Duncan throws her book into the sea and storms off. He seeks comfort in alcohol and, in a fit of rage, attempts to throw Martha overboard, but fails. Duncan cannot tolerate Bella's independence and becomes enraged when she seeks education or acts on her own. When he says she's lost her lovely way of speaking, what he truly means is that he prefers her to remain innocent and childlike. Bella highlights the irony of how some men prefer women to be innocent, submissive, and compliant, so they can control and shape them as they please. Disturbed by Harry's nihilistic ideas, Bella decides to visit him to continue the debate. She tells Harry she does not agree with his belief that all people are cruel, though she admits she feels cruelty rise within her when she's with Duncan. Harry thinks Duncan deserves it, but Bella disagrees. She doesn't want to be cruel. She wants to work on improving that part of herself. What is interesting about Bella is that she doesn't fully follow any single school of thought, not Martha nor Harry's. Instead, she takes useful elements from each to form her own values. While she considers Harry's nihilism to be bleak, she doesn't dismiss it entirely. After reflecting on her discussions with him, she arrives at a synthesis. She recognizes the cruelty within herself, as Harry suggests, but also believes in her capacity for growth, aligning herself with Emerson and Martha. This attitude Bella has toward different ideas is admirable. She doesn't accept any position without questioning it. She listens, evaluates, and selects what seems most coherent, forming her own thoughts. Harry, convinced that Bella doesn't truly understand the world's cruelty, decides to show her its real nature. They disembark from the cruise ship in Alexandria, a modern city filled with advanced technology and great luxury, and take a cable car to a lavish hotel while having tea. Bella hears desperate screams. When she looks out the window, she cannot believe what she sees. Dead babies, starving families, and exhausted workers. She tries to descend the stairs to help them, but the staircase is broken. Harry tells her there's nothing she can do. One key event of the 19th century was the Industrial Revolution, which transformed the agricultural and artisanal economy into an industrial one centered on machinery and manufacturing. In the film, this shift is evident in details like the gas-powered carriage or the ship's smoke. This period also strengthened industrial capitalism, transferring the means of production, factories and machinery, into private hands under the idea that private management was more efficient than governmental oversight. However, while governments could focus on social welfare, companies tended to prioritize profit, leading to increased inequality. Factory owners became disproportionately wealthy, while workers remained poor. This reality is reflected in Alexandria, where some enjoy tea in a luxurious hotel, while others suffer below. The only way to reach the top of the hotel, and symbolically the top of society, is from above by cable car, since the staircase is broken, possibly symbolizing the difficulty of escaping extreme poverty. Bella is shaken by what she saw. She returns to the cabin, takes all of Duncan's money, and tries to go back to Alexandria to give it to the poor. But the ship is already departing. The waiters offer to deliver the money. Bella innocently gives it to them, but the sailors steal it. Upon returning to the cabin, Bella casually tells Duncan that her money wasn't stolen. She gave it to the poor. Duncan explodes in anger. At that moment, some stewards arrive to inform them that, lacking sufficient funds to continue the voyage, they must disembark at the next port in France. Before leaving, Harry apologizes to Bella for taking her to Alexandria, admitting that he intended to hurt her. He says he couldn't bear to see so much happiness in her. However, Bella replies that she has no regrets, and then she says goodbye to him. Bella and Duncan arrive in Paris with no money. The city doesn't seem as magical and colorful as Lisbon, which shows that Bella now sees the world in a darker, more somber light. While looking for money and a place to stay, she comes across a brothel. The owner, Madame Sweeney, offers her a chance to earn quick money through intimate relations. Bella agrees and serves her first client. She returns and tells Duncan what happened. He becomes furious, unable to accept that Bella was with another man in exchange for money. Bella cannot understand how everything Duncan once said about her beauty has suddenly vanished just because she allowed another man to be with her. Duncan becomes agitated and tells her what she did was the worst thing a woman can do. Bella replies that she is an experimenter and imperfect, and that she needs someone who can be more forgiving. She tells him their relationship is over. Although Duncan is a womanizer, he has no qualms about criticizing Bella. This double standard, which stigmatizes women with sexual desires as impure, was common in that era and persists today. The virginal, pure woman is idealized, while the sexual woman is scorned. Bella returns to the brothel to ask for work and, with the help of Madame Sweeney, begins serving more clients. There, she also meets Toinette, a kind co-worker who offers her advice and introduces her to socialism. These new ideas reshape the way she perceives her work. When a new client arrives, Bella suggests to Madame Sweeney that women should be allowed to choose their clients, reflecting her growing desire to improve labor and women's rights, principles she has learned from socialism. I will explore this line of thought more deeply later. However, Madame Sweeney scolds her for offending the clients and calls her to the office. She explains that some men prefer women like Bella to have no autonomy or choice. She introduces Bella to her sick infant granddaughter, who needs constant care. She tells Bella that allowing the women to choose their clients would jeopardize her business, and with it, the child's health and survival. She teaches Bella that, although it's not always the best for everyone, sometimes we must comply with the world's demands. Seeing Bella's sadness, Madame Sweeney tells her not to lose hope. In life, we must experience both the good and the bad, because the bad completes us and prepares us. That's how we come to know the world. And when we know the world is ours. Bella has noble ideas, but Madame Sweeney shows her that reality is more complex and that sometimes circumstances outweigh our wishes and ideals. Bella continues working at the brothel. She takes time to get to know her clients, and in her free hours, she attends medical classes and socialist meetings with Toinette. Duncan returns and begs Bella to come back to him and get married. However, Bella tells him she cannot believe she was ever with someone like him, now that she better understands her past experiences through the knowledge she has acquired. He insults Bella and Toinette for their work, but Bella replies firmly, "We are our own means of production." A profoundly socialist phrase. Socialism is a movement that emerged in the 19th century as a response to the inequality and exploitation of industrial capitalism. It proposed eliminating private ownership of the means of production held by the bourgeoisie and establishing social or communal control instead. In London, Max and Godwin continue training Felicity, their new experiment, but they don't treat her with the same affection they had for Bella. Max asks Godwin why he's so hard on her. Godwin replies that his mistake with Bella was becoming emotionally attached, and that as a scientist, he cannot allow that to happen again. He also reveals that he needs urgent surgery for an illness that is worsening rapidly. Meanwhile, Bella continues working as a lady of the night. After several harsh encounters with strange men, she begins to realize that sexuality is not as thrilling as she had initially believed. She confesses to Madame Sweeney that she feels like a machine, that her empathy is turning to disdain and anger. When Bella first discovered sexuality, she thought it was only pleasure and fun, without understanding its social implications, especially for a woman. However, after multiple encounters, she comes to understand that sex is not just about pleasure. It's far more complex and is often used to exploit people. This experience reveals to her position as a woman in society, where she's frequently seen only as a sexual object. Bella's relationship with Toinette grows closer. During a break, Toinette asks Bella if she has ever been pregnant, pointing to a scar on her abdomen. Bella replies no, but Toinette shows a similar scar, revealing that she once had a child. This confuses Bella and makes her begin to question what she really knows about herself. Godwin's health is deteriorating rapidly, despite Max's efforts to help him. Godwin does not have much time left, and in his final moments, asks to see Bella. Upon receiving this sad news, Bella returns to London. Now, London is no longer shown in black and white, nor is it as colorful as Lisbon. It's depicted in a more realistic tone, reflecting the maturity Bella has achieved. As I've mentioned, the evolution in cinematography reflects Bella's growth. The film shifts from black and white to the fantastical landscapes of Lisbon, then to the darker settings of Paris, and finally adopts a realistic style when Bella returns to London. This reinforces the idea that what we see reflects her perception of the world more than her actual age. The film emphasizes maturity gained through experience and knowledge, rather than the passage of time. Bella finds Godwin weak and ill, but he is overjoyed to see her. She tells him that she brings with her both happiness and many questions, and asks him if she's ever had a baby. Godwin admits that she did, and decides to explain the entire experiment. He tells her that she is both mother and child at once. Bella becomes very angry over all the lies, and even more so when she learns that they repeated the experiment with Felicity. Unlike Bella, Felicity cannot speak clearly, does not grasp complex ideas, and lacks social skills. The experiments don't evolve. They evolve through knowledge gained from experience. Felicity remains naive and innocent because she's never explored the world. In contrast, Bella has become a complex and capable person thanks to her many experiences. Bella forgives Godwin and tells him that she wants to become a doctor. Later, she speaks with Max about her travels and her time working in the brothel. Max listens with tenderness and understanding. He accepts her past without hesitation, telling her, "It's your body, yours to give freely." Max is the opposite of Duncan in his attitude toward women. He treats them as equals and respects Bella's autonomy and independence, acknowledging her ability to make her own choices about her life, including her sexuality. Max seems to embody the ideal of how the film believes women should be treated. As Godwin is about to walk Bella down the aisle, Duncan interrupts the wedding and brings with him General Alfred Blessington, known as Alfie, who is the husband of Victoria Blessington, the woman whose body Bella now inhabits. Alfie calls Bella by the name Victoria and tells her that he is her husband. He explains that they were married before she disappeared and that he has now come to reclaim her. Bella is confused. She doesn't remember this man, but she decides to leave Max at the altar to explore this final, unknown aspect of her past. She leaves with Alfie and returns to the mansion where Victoria once lived. Bella witnesses Alfie's cruel nature. He calls for a servant, asks for soup, and when she brings it, he orders his dog to attack her and spill the soup on her. Alfie laughs loudly. Bella now understands that Victoria tried to end her life because her marriage made her deeply unhappy. Eventually, Bella discovers that Alfie plans to mutilate her so that she will never be able to feel pleasure again, claiming it's the source of her disobedience. When Bella confronts him, Alfie threatens her with a gun and demands that she take a sedative, saying that his job is to conquer territories. Armed with the knowledge she has gained through her journey, Bella replies that she is not a territory to be conquered. She throws the sedative in his face, and during the struggle for the weapon, Alfie accidentally shoots himself in the foot and collapses to the ground. Alfie clearly represents the extreme of misogyny and toxic masculinity. He's a violent and ignorant man who cannot tolerate a woman having desires of her own and sees women as territories to be conquered. Bella asks Max for help in saving Alfie, who, lying on the ground, tells Bella to consider herself as good as dead. Max tells Bella that if Alfie survives, she will not be safe. Bella says she won't let him die, but agrees that they can perform an improvement. So Max and Bella decide to carry out a different kind of procedure. They transplant a goat's brain into Alfie. Bella returns to Godwin and confesses that with Alfie, she discovered someone else's story, but not her own. Godwin dies peacefully, surrounded by the love of Max and Bella. Later, we see that Bella has transformed Godwin's house into a true home. She now lives there with Max, Toinette, Felicity, and even Alfie, who has become a harmless creature with his new goat brain. Bella studies for her anatomy exam, preparing to become a doctor, and, having experienced both the good and the bad of the world, now seeks to improve it. This is where the film ends, but in the book, Bella's story is told by her husband, Mick Candless, through a journal, and she later reveals in a letter that the story was fabricated by her husband to comfort himself and to justify her desire for independence. I believe that if the film had included this part, many criticisms would have been avoided, though many people prefer the movie's ending. What I take away from the film is this: it reiterates the idea that both people and the world can improve by becoming aware of both their positive and negative aspects. And that is the message I want to emphasize. As Bella learns about and understands herself more deeply, she evolves and grows. Likewise, by confronting the difficult realities of her environment, she identifies what needs to change. Experiencing the world, both its good and its bad, prepares us to challenge and improve what isn't working. We cannot improve what we don't recognize, either in ourselves or in the world. So, inspired by Bella's journey, I am left with this motto: to know is to grow, and to confront, transform. Thanks for staying until the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe and share it with a friend who you think might enjoy it. And you and I'll see you in the next one.